For this video, I'm going to be talking about a particular person who caused a certain incident that has happened some months ago. And a lot of people don't know that this was happening and they don't know the context. And this is because that this person has a knack of being subliminal or has a knack to half-ass things and just be implicit all the time. So this is why I have to bring it to attention, because everyone needs to get a broader understanding, a wider understanding of what really happened. So this revolves around a user by the name of Aurora, and she is a user over on Yodayo/Moriscape, which is an AI art site. In her case, she uses the Yodayo side. Aurora joined Yodayo on the 10th of July 2023. Around that month was when she decided to leave Yodayo, as this was around the time Yodayo was fully rebranding as Moriscape per their old plan. The devs basically induced a NSFW ban, but when people started leaving, they brought back NSFW and decided for Yodayo and Moriscape to be two separate sites and coincide equally. And I will put that in basically for context. When I discovered Aurora last autumn, she had already left. Despite all the freaky stuff that were in between, bear in mind I only viewed her page on the Moriscape side per my integration to Moriscape back in late July of last year. And I only cared for the safe stuff, especially her secondary OC, Faye. And basically I took interest, mainly that character, only because she was a safe character to Jen. And obviously I had so many ideas for her, and Aurora liked them all. On 14th of January 2025, Aurora returned to Yodayo/Moriscape. At that time, she put out a return post. It was titled Compilation of Whatever 2. At this time, she was doing a compilation post which involved her OCs and basically the OCs of anyone else that put in a request to have their OC appear. When I read this description, it only said what it said. However, she neglected to specify the true nature of this compilation. Now, because she didn't specify the nature, I was completely unaware what direction she went with this. So I was just curious as to what one of my OCs would have looked like in the style that she gens her images in. So I decided to put in a request. I created a new OC at the time, and it was on the following day, called Cleo Alvarez. And when I went back to Aurora's return post the following day after, that's when I put in my request for Cleo. And per the description and per Aurora's instructions, she told everyone that she needed the prompt in order to do our requests. So all I did was follow suit, and I gave her the main prompt for my character Cleo. And as you can see, this is the prompt that I put forward. Now bear in mind, I did mention Cleo's attire, which was her orange sleeveless dress. So I basically initially thought that Aurora would see this whole prompt and would adhere to the whole prompt. Now bear in mind that when I saw the results, I can prove to you that she was aware of the whole prompt, and she basically just did something different against my wishes. I actually did want to see Cleo in her original form. The only thing that I regretted forgetting to tell Aurora was not to add cleavage or big breasts or to put her in a bikini, because I don't support those kind of things. So that's when Aurora accepted my request. and I felt that it was too late to tell her about the things that I didn't want. But bear in mind again, she was the one that neglected to tell people about the true nature of this compilation. And I didn't know what the true nature of this compilation was due to her negligence. On the 29th January 2025, that was when the compilation was released. How it all came about was that I was basically browsing through another friend's page. For protective reasons, I won't give his actual username because I don't want him to be endangered because of the truth that I am telling about Aurora. So I will call him Xavier. So I went to Xavier's page and I went into the comments section just to see what everybody was saying, just out of curiosity. And I then saw Aurora's comment and it said something like, "I have a surprise for you." And it showed a Yodayo link. Now, as a reminder again, I use Moescape, not Yodayo. So I figured this had to have been the compilation. So when I clicked on the link, it was tagged as sensitive content. So for those who don't know, Yodayo has a specific rating system for all content. And overall it goes PG, PG-13, R, R+, X, and triple X. X and triple X can only be apparent on Yodayo only, whereas Moescape is without those two ratings. And R+, as of late July of this year, has now been allowed on both Yodayo and Moescape. At this time, and that was before the R+ change, I was thinking that this post was rated R or R+. So, given that I was already in Moescape and I didn't want to sign into Yodayo, I switched the Yodayo URL to a Moescape URL. Now, this is actually linked to a certain glitch in the system, which of course needs to be fixed. And I don't know if they're fixing it already, but it should be fixed. I didn't know the proper rating of this post at the time, this compilation post. And I will get to that in a second. But this part is where I say how the crap went down. So, like I said, it was the 29th of January, 2025. I came across the first image, and it was an image of her primary OC, who she dubs as Mummy or Mummy Aurora. And it's just basically her fully clothed, but with cleavage exposed, and like ice cream spilling on one of her boobs. So something like that, per the rules, would be rated R or R+, given the appearance of the image. So I figured, oh, it would have been that level. But then I slid right to the next image, and I was so disgusted by what I saw. I scrolled down so fast, and I'm thinking, what the frick did I just see? And it was an image of Mummy Aurora engaging in oral sex. And it was so graphic, I can't even tell you. And obviously, this obviously took a toll on me because of the fact that I, for those who don't know, went through trauma at the age of 14 because of NSFW. And I was never into it because I think it's disgusting. But every time I tried to avoid it, it always came back to haunt me and just scar me. And it's been happening for 13 years. And this was one of the tips of the iceberg for me when I went through this compilation. I wanted to get out of there. But what I was worried about was what Aurora did to my Cleo. And I needed to know what she did to her. Because There is no way in heck that I was going to allow her or anybody to try to defile my OCs. I also want to make clear that I have strict rules about my OCs, and the main ones being no NSFW whatsoever. So after seeing that image, that's when I discovered that this compilation was an NSFW compilation. And this was something that Aurora neglected to tell people from the start. If you look back in the description of her return post, there is no indication whatsoever of the compilation being NSFW, and this is something that she should have told us from the start. And she also should have told me from the start too. It was completely unfair that she left us in the dark about this. So with my hand covering the screen, I had to keep on scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and my efforts were basically failing me a bit because I saw glimpse after glimpse after glimpse of every disgusting image in that compilation until I went to the center of these posts, and I could not believe what I saw. There were two images of my OC Cleo, but unfortunately she did not gen her in the orange dress that I wanted her to gen her in. The first one is completely disgusting. She increased her breast size and put her in a red small bikini, and I was completely disgusted by what she did. Because I don't support bikinis and I don't support big breasts, nor do I support cleavage. I never asked her to put her in a bikini, nor did I ever ask her to increase her breast size, nor did I ever ask her to make any freaky stuff out of her. Because if I wanted any of this on my Cleo, I would have asked for it, but I didn't. And this is something that she should have asked me about. But the other one was the most disgusting of all, and it really whizzed me off. She was naked, absolutely naked. And this was the first time that somebody defiled my OC to the point of full nudity. And it was so disgusting. She increased her breast size, added a minge to her. It was just so disgusting that I can't even tell you. The fact that she went this far and did this to her. I have never even asked her to make her naked. I never asked her to make her naked. And this is how far she goes. She should have told me what this was about. She should have told me about the nature of her compilation. It was clear that she probably didn't know that I wasn't into this stuff. But unfortunately, oblivion is not an excuse. And if she didn't know whether or not I was into NSFW, she should have asked me. And she should have asked me how I felt about this kind of crap. And if you look back in the description of this compilation post, there is nowhere where she indicates that this compilation was NSFW. Nowhere. So when I logged into Yodayo and I tried to find out what the rating was, it said XXX. Now one thing you gotta bear in mind is that when it comes to posts rated R, R+, X and XXX, you would get a notice in a box that says that the content is sensitive. However, for some reason that only appears on posts rated R and R+, but when it's X and XXX, no appearance whatsoever. But this is the glitch that I was mentioning, because an X and XXX post should not be accessible on Moescape. It should only be acceptable on Yodayo only. But the fact that I'm able to view a XXX post on Moescape is the most baffling thing that I've ever had to experience. Aurora put me in a bad spot, and she put me in a bad place, and I was so traumatized by what I saw, and I was so disgusted, and I was so angry, even with her, because she had no right to do that. Because she needs to get through her skull that Cleo belongs to me, not her. But the thing about her is that she thinks she can just do whatever she wants to anyone's OCs just because she thinks that we're like her. But we're not. Everyone is different. And some people don't like NSFW because they just don't like it. It's disgusting, and it's literally scarred me for years. And she made it worse. I couldn't even sleep that night because of her. So, on that night, the following night, I put out a statement basically explaining how I felt, the situation, but it wasn't enough. So then, I knew that I had to address this. The reason why I couldn't comment on the post itself was because it was a triple X post. And me being a Christian, people would come up with all kinds of accusations. They'll probably be thinking, oh, what's a Christian doing here? Or if you're a Christian, if you're not into this stuff, why are you commenting on a triple X post? Despite the fact that my Cleo was being defiled, I knew that I was in a compromising situation. So I had to put out an open letter because she had no right to do what she did. And this was on the following day, February 1st, 2025. I put this out on Moescape, and it's titled An Open Letter to the One Who Defiled My Cleo. That's Aurora. Now, the reason why I couldn't mention her name was because Yodayo and Moescape have this rule where it says, yeah, you're not allowed to call people out because they say that it could incite bullying. So that's why I had to attach the hashtag. The same hashtag which was attached to the compilation and her return post, which was Mummy's compilation and of course Mummy Aurora. She read this letter. She read it. And you know what she did? She unfollowed me, which I wanted her to do. I don't want people like that supporting me, and I do not support people like that either. But she went as far as blocking me, instead of taking accountability and talking it out like an adult. She acted like a child and just blocked me and refused to take responsibility for her actions. So I made a response on the 4th of February. That was the day she cut me off. And obviously I lost all respect for her after what she did to my Cleo, because she had no right to do that without my permission. So the follow-up to this is called My Response in Response to the Defiler's Response. And I wrote that plain and clear without any regrets at all. I know I realised that the coward part is a bit too harsh, but I was whizzed off at the time. So I talked to a few people and they were actually consoling me because they understood my anger, they understood my frustration, and they understood that Aurora shouldn't have done that crap without my permission. It's just basic respect. Like, you don't make NSFW content out of people's OCs or any of their other content whatsoever, or even them and their likeness, without their consent or without their knowledge. You're supposed to ask people first whether or not they're into NSFW before you do it. And if the answer is no, it's no. Like, don't whinge about it, don't whine about it, don't pussyfoot about it. If the answer is no, it's no. But then she, obviously, Aurora, didn't care. So it harrowed me for months. I was able to move on physically and socially, but I haven't been able to move on emotionally or psychologically because it has been something that's been scarring me for months. But as you can tell, I can clearly tell that Aurora did know about my whole prompt and she didn't care. Because if you read back at what my prompt was, this is the full prompt here. One woman, Hispanic, brown skin, solo, beautiful, mature woman, age 37, tall, blue eyes, long black hair, feminine figure, extremely wide hips, orange sleeveless dress, black beaded necklace, pearl earrings, long red fingernails, red lipstick, smile, half closed eyes, calm expression, wholesome blush. Now, as you can see, based on the images, she did know that this was the whole prompt and she completely ignored it. Because as you can see, the reason why it had to be split up into two separate comments, well, two separate replies in this case, is because of the character limit that the devs put on each comment and each reply. And because the whole prompt exceeded the character limit, I had to separate it into two. But it doesn't change the fact that Aurora did know. As you can see in the second half, if we take the earrings, fingernails and lipsticks and her facial expression from the second half, right? You see her pearl earrings and her lipstick and her long fingernails are present in both images, which means that Aurora did know that I wanted her in her dress and she went against me. She went against me, which means, much to my realization that I did specify what I wanted, but Aurora went against me. So technically, this is not my fault. This is all Aurora's fault because she went against me. She was the one who completely ignored my prompt. She was the one that just assumed that I wanted this crap when I didn't. And she was the one that did something against my wishes. Because I was blocked, I actually found a way to view her Moescape page, which I can't say out loud. But this was to make sure she wasn't chatting crap about me. So I found a post that was put out on 13th February. This was when Aurora returned from her 2-week break. It was titled Hey. But if you read the second line, it reads, someone whom I will not say names got really mad at me and it made me feel sad. If that is the right word for it, of course. So obviously she's being subliminal here, but it was clearly obvious that she was talking about me. But at the same time, I don't care if she's sad, because first of all, she did what she did. What she did was wrong and crappy. And second of all, she's the bad guy in this situation, and I am the true victim. So she doesn't get sympathy. She doesn't deserve sympathy. She is not the victim, like I said. In this case, she can't be going around and acting as if she deserves to be, that she deserves to be comforted, because she doesn't. She knew what she did was wrong and she has to suffer the consequences. But this has been harrowing me for months and months afterwards. So I spoke to a few people who were there about it. But the most important person that I talked to was Xavier, who told me the whole truth to why Aurora did what she did. So he revealed to me that the reason why Aurora neglected to tell people about the compilation being NSFW beforehand was because she just assumed that everybody knew what she was doing. And to the 3 people that put in their requests, which was me and 2 other users who, for protective reasons, I will name them as Terrence and Dietrich. Aurora basically assumed that the 3 of us were into NSFW, despite that being the actual case for Dietrich, just because she didn't know us well. And that was inexcusable. All of it is inexcusable. Because like I said, and as I explained to Xavier, and which he agreed with me, if she didn't know, she should have asked. And Xavier agreed with me and reconfirmed that this was all Aurora's fault. So I'm definitely the victim, and I was definitely in the right to be mad at her. She hurt me that night, very, very badly, and she didn't even care. She didn't care about how I felt. She didn't care about how much she traumatized me. She didn't even care that what she did was messed up and wrong and highly disrespectful. She didn't even care to the point where she never even bothered to even ask me whether or not I was into that stuff. So clearly, I can't really say that this was a misunderstanding. However, it was her fault for being reticent, it's her fault for being negligent, and it was her fault for being reckless. And what I noticed is that she has this knack of going off the rails. So like anytime you put in a request and you specifically ask her to do something that you want to see, she goes and does something completely different. She done this with a SFW request for another user. I didn't see the post in which Aurora was asking for requests of that time, but I only saw the request post that she put out, and she openly admitted it was not what wanted. Aurora basically said, not what you wanted, but I just thought it looked cool. Which was basically Aurora just thinking about herself, because that's how she is. She only thinks about herself. She acts as if she's for her friends, but the only time she acts for her friends is only when you share the same interests and share the same preferences as her. But if your preferences differ, or if she doesn't know you, she just makes assumptions about you and acts as if she cares, only for her to screw you. And that's exactly something that really whizzes me off. This is basically me warning people about Aurora. And all I want for her is just step up. All I want for her is just to woman up, take responsibility for her actions, and just apologize, for gosh sakes, for what she did. Because I'm getting sick and tired of her dodging responsibility and acting as if she's the victim when she's not, and acting as if that I should accept all the bullcrap that she does to my OC and expect me to just be like her, shoving her sex politics down my throat. That is not going to happen. I will not let it happen. She doesn't deserve sympathy, she doesn't deserve empathy, and she does not deserve comfort or consolation. She needs to take responsibility, and all I want for her is to just apologize. And that is it. It's not that hard. If the roles were reversed, because let me tell you something, if the roles were reversed and I was the one who was like Aurora and she was the one who was just like me, I would have done well to tell people from the start that the compilation was NSFW, and I would have done well to ask people whether or not they're into that and whether or not they're comfortable with that. That's all it takes. Mindfulness, caring, because at least I care about what other people prefer, and at least I care about what people are comfortable and uncomfortable with. And that's the kind of care that's supposed to be happening. But Aurora didn't care, because that's the kind of person she is. That is the kind of woman she is. That is the kind of crap that she devotes her life to. If she doesn't wise up now, it will only just come back to bite her in the ass. So, this is the Cleo incident. I'm hoping that I provided enough context, but I just want to make it clear one last time. I didn't know the compilation was going to be NSFW. Aurora was the one that neglected to tell people beforehand that the compilation was going to be NSFW. Aurora actually did know what I wanted and completely went against it. And she is the one at fault, not me. She's the one at fault.